Hey HEXO traders and investors, it's Rod with Power Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the Ask Me Anything session that was hosted by the Cannalysts, featuring Trent MacDonald, the CFO of HEXO. And it was a great session, and we'll go over this as quickly as possible. So we'll try to summarize it as fast as we can. But before we do, make sure to smash the like and subscribe to the channel. So stick around and we'll jump right into it. Welcome back. So we'll jump right into it. I know a lot of people were asking me to do a video covering this Ask Me Anything, so I'll do my best to recap it as fast as possible. Shout out to QC and our group for sharing this PDF format. So we'll go through each question and answer individually, and I'll summarize it here very quickly. So the first question comes from Go Blue. He wants to know about the gross margin percentage and if they can provide a bridge of the cost of goods sold components that has led to an increase of a previous stable 30% from several quarters ago, and some color on sustainability. So to summarize Trent's response, he basically said that HEXO doesn't provide detailed components of the cost of goods sold in bridge, percent, or dollar values, and they vary from product to product. Major components are direct and indirect costs of materials, processing, packaging, etc. They are focusing on their capacity as overhead or fixed in both indirect and direct, and it is a balancing act to manage inventory risks as they don't want any more write-downs. They want to sell everything they're producing. HEXO has great margins because they're using more trim than they produce, which is a big part of their hash and beverage formats, and trim is a big part of the plant and biological asset. HEXO's overhead costs are some of the lowest in the industry, and they have waged a war on cost of goods sold. They believe they are in a much better position than most of the LPs in terms of margins, SG&A, and COGS. So question number 2 comes from Go Blue. He wants to know, does other income factor into the EBITDA? Is this 100% from the trust's joint venture, or does it include other items? And once trust has its own license, will gross margins from beverages no longer be included in HEXO's reporting? Trent responded with, other income is a chargeback of certain SG&A and expenses under the trust's joint venture. Don't exclude it from the EBITDA, and expenses are reported in their SG&A, and it isn't removed from EBITDA either. It's a wash under the JV agreement. Trust doesn't have its own license, putting it under HEXO's control for financial reporting purposes. And once Trust has its own license, they will revert to equity reporting, which is 42.5% of the joint venture. The next question comes from High Five Turtle, wanting to know the status of the Medifarm lawsuit. Trent responded that HEXO is still in the discovery and cross-examination phase, which needs to be completed before summary judgment motion. So the next few questions are from High Five Turtle again, and they want to know which bills in the U.S. is HEXO most focused on, and if LPs don't gain access to the U.S. soon, will MSOs have too big of a moat? Is HEXO concerned about Chuck Schumer's Senate Majority Leader's comments on big tobacco and alcohol companies trying to limit that from them dominating the market? And will this limit Molson Coors and HEXO's expansion in the U.S.? What is the likelihood of a new Fortune 500 partner within the coming months? And what are the chances of more than one partner this year? So Trent responded with, some LPs are focused on certain acts more than others. HEXO doesn't have a strategy to be or own an MSO. HEXO has 2 strategies: to be the top market position in Canada and to be the largest provider of MJ-infused non-traditional consumer packaged good products in the world, with joint venture partnerships with Fortune 500 companies. They are an MJ company first and not a candy company. Trust's MJ beverages, for example, that is what they focus on. That and only that is their specialty. So they are a cannabis company first, not candy or a food company. And if we remember back to the .com days, a lot of companies were claiming to be pets.com, but they didn't actually have a business model, and they were just trying in on the hype. HEXO doesn't want to compete with big existing CPG companies, as they don't believe that is a winning strategy. Rather than competing, they want to partner with them and utilize their technology and their distribution and use their partners' brands and expertise in the product space to make winning products that people love and trust. Hence trust, and why they're having success in Colorado. They are working on a new partner deal with a new structure that could be royalty based, with whom they are in ongoing negotiations with. So the next question is, why did HEXO stop HEXO Med partnership, and is Zenabis a better deal in terms of European expansion? Trent responded with, HEXO Med was a JV deal for cultivation needs in Europe. This meant they had to deploy large amounts of capital to build another facility. With Zenabis as their EU partner, they use their existing EU GMP certified facility in Malta, which you need to be able to have EU GMP certification to be able to sell into the EU. Up next, we have the question, will HEXO have facilities in the US or other countries when legally permissible to do so? Trent responded with, HEXO just hired a new general manager in the US division, and we are soon looking to build out our facility in Colorado for powered by HEXO technologies such as Trust beverages. They will look to be entering other states for production capacity soon. They have no near-term plans to build a cultivation facility, but they would rather negotiate supply agreements where legally permissible. So they have no international cultivation facility expansion plans. And again, they would rather focus on wholesale shipments from Canada when they are legally able. Moving on to the next question. So does HEXO have any more M&A plans within the next year? Trent responded with, we can't disclose any of those direct plans other than Zenabis, but we are on record saying we are active in M&A. Moving on to the next one. The likelihood of outstanding shares going back to 400 or 500 million plus without splits. Curious about the dilution concerns. Trent responded with, HEXO hasn't raised in the past 2 quarters and only used 8.1 million of cash for operations over the past 3 quarters combined. If we do end up raising, which we don't have any immediate plans to do so, it will be for strategic reasons such as M&A, which HEXO believes will benefit shareholders. Next question is, will HEXO pay a dividend in the future? Trent responded with, no immediate plans. We are not cash flow positive, so we may consider it later on. Next question, why does HEXO release earnings on global meltdowns? Trent responded with, believe me, if we could time it for green days, we would. We feel we had great earnings, 94% growth year over year. We were positive EBITDA and 40% margins, not including beverages. All right, so the next question comes from Snow Mexican Cad, and it looks like they're a little bit disgruntled. And they ask, why does HEXO pay its employees so much in salaries? Do you think it would help the company become EPS positive quicker if you paid people less and then increase the salaries again once cash flow positive? And Trent responded with, there is no I in team. All our success is from a collective effort. HEXO does a lot of research in terms of competitive salaries, and we feel it's comparative to the industry standard. Basically is what he said. We pay our employees well to incentivize them to contribute to the growth and success of the company. HEXO's number of options in our RSUs outstanding represent less than 6% of a fully diluted share outstanding. Options payout if management does a good job, and Sebastian St. Louis is a very, very smart entrepreneur and leader. HEXO is in good hands. Next up, we have, do you think HEXO is undervalued, and what is HEXO going to do about it? Trent responded with, we do believe that we're undervalued compared to peers. We believe our fundamentals are some of the best in the industry. In relation to enterprise value / net revenue, we trade well below the industry average, and HEXO's enterprise value to net revenue as of March 24th close was 9.x compared to OGI at 17.1x, SNDL at 32.2x, Cron at 66.7x, and most factor in distribution revenue as well. The next question pertains to regulatory licensing and compliance. So how often does HEXO receive Health Canada inspections? Is there any reason why you don't share these reports? Trent responded with, like other LPs, HEXO is periodically inspected by Health Canada, and we don't publish these reports as they can contain proprietary info and could risk safety of our staff and operations. Health Canada does publish an inspection summary annually, which you can find on the Health Canada website, and they provided the link below. Up next is a question regarding the JV with Keystone Isolation Technologies. So are the technologies with that JV being utilized for your Canadian product and US hemp-derived CBD beverages at scale? Trent answered with, innovation is key at HEXO, and with our JV kit, we are working on a platform technology to give us the next advantage. We are scaling in Canada and deploying more capital to the US through our CPG partners, and HEXO has a 5-year supply agreement with the SQDC. So the next question regarding 4th and 5th year of this agreement with the SQDC relative to the amounts of the first 3 years, do you expect it to be roughly the same, and do you expect another deal at the end of this term? Trent basically responded with, it's a great partner with the SQDC, and they help them with the black market domination, and also growing their market share outside of Quebec is very important to them as well, not just in Quebec. And they do expect to potentially work with the SQDC to establish yet another supply contract that will continue their partnership. So the next 3 questions I'm going to go over really quickly as they have a quick question and a quick answer. So, hi Trent, I really appreciate the outreach to retail investors. Love Sebastian's closing remarks in the call too. They like our pot and they like our stock. That is a great line. I love it. Can you guys give any kind of ballpark estimations where gross margins on beverages are going long term? Trent said right now sales are in the 3.5 million for Q1 and Q2. We're close to break even on that margin. We expect to continue to grow in sales as we enter the spring and summer. Margins should continue to improve with scale. What are the company's plans going forward with HEXO's brand? From what I've seen around, Original Stash is moving the vast majority of the flower, and the HEXO brand is lagging behind the other companies. So Trent basically said we have no plans to sunset the brand, and we will continue to expand in Quebec, adding new innovative products offering over time, and is our international and medical brand as well. Next question, there was some commentary given to us on the earnings call regarding new partnerships to manufacture edibles for the companies on a royalty basis. Can we take this to mean that HEXO is expanding in the edibles category soon? So Trent responded with, our goal is to enter edibles, yes, but with CPG partners using their brands, not HEXO. The products will be powered by HEXO. Moving on, the next few questions and answers are a bit long-winded, so I'll summarize the best as I can. So as a result of the ZENA acquisition, HEXO will be left with around $60 million in high-interest debt. Is that correct, and what are your plans to manage it? Trent said our goal is to take care of that debt at the close or as soon as possible thereafter. Next question, is HEXO keeping ZENA's Langley facility? Will the re-up brand be repackaged as original stash? Will ZENA debt be paid in cash? What happens to ZENA's CEO? Some questions regarding cost per gram, debt to equity, and ratio questions. What are the expected pro forma revenues in 2021? And do you think HEXO got a good deal on ZENA? Seems like a steal at $250 million. And Trent responded with, he basically didn't have all the time to answer all those questions, but some key points were, he can't say at this time what the definite plans are with ZENA assets, but with regards to the debt, the intention is to pay that off as soon as possible after the deal closes. And they like the low-cost production of Zenabis, and they believe the synergies will produce a very low cost per gram, some of the lowest in the market, which should result in healthy margins. And Trent mentions again that the price-sales ratios compared to the peers, and he just basically reiterates the same answer that he provided in a few questions prior. So moving on, in effort of time, I'll summarize these as best as I can as well. So a question regarding management and leadership team integrations with ZENA and HEXO. Trent responded with, both teams are working together very closely, and they're working on an org chart, basically trying to utilize and maximize the skill sets the best they can and try to avoid redundant possibilities. We had another question about whether or not Zenabis would be a wholesale supplier to HEXO and which quantities are the gelato and lemon haze new strains coming out of outsourcing. Can you give us some information on Zenabis' situation on their drinks and edibles? So will they have their own drinks type of thing? And how is that going to be leveraged? He responded with, Trust Beverages is a joint venture with Molson Coors. It's through our JV that the combined company, HEXO and Zenabis, will continue to grow beverage. So there's no plans specifically for Zenabis specific drinks. And Zenabis shareholders will continue to benefit from the expected growth in trusts and CPG partners using their Powered by HEXO brand. Another question was, will Shai be one of the ones coming to HEXO board, and can we expect him to lead the food and edibles lab in Belleville? Can we expect for new edible partners by May, or will it go to Q3 earnings to finish off paperwork? Is the SAFE Act an actual roadblock? Will it be waiting to be passed to let Fortune 500 companies come into JV with cannabis companies? So basically, are they just waiting for that? And Trent responded with, the bigger concern for CPG is the stigma involved in the regulatory oversight, and CPGs want to make sure that the products are safe and appeal to their consumers, and their ability to consistently deliver hemp-derived CBD at the highest quality is top-notch. Trent basically says that CPG companies are excited about the opportunity now more than ever. They have re-excited about including a functional element to their products and looking for ways to access new markets and increase their revenues and profits. We built up some great technology and facilities in Canada, and we're now deploying capital across the US to build out our CPGs in the US market. And that's going to be, again, powered by HEXO. We're still working through the integration plan with Zenabis and making great progress. We aren't in a position to disclose publicly which team members of HEXO and Zenabis will be taking on which responsibility roles. Is there an infrastructure to be sold in Zenabis assets? We're currently assessing all assets, capacity, and cultivation needs, and they haven't really determined anything in set in stone just yet. The next question surrounding brands, distribution, and new strains. So Trent responded with, we launched a new robust genetics program in Brantford. Results have been promising, and that brought gelato and lemon haze to market, and the plan is to launch more in the summer and the fall. These strains are not outsourced. They're part of HEXO's genetics program. Products will be high potency and some other low potency products as well. With ZENA's capacity coming online soon, they hope to bring the Up brand to Quebec later this year or early 2022. We also had a question regarding EU GMP facility in Malta and how HEXO plans to leverage that distribution in Europe and their timeline. Trent's remarks were, once the deal is done, they will leverage the Malta facility and EU distribution. So in an effort to keep this video as short as possible, I'll summarize a few questions and answers here. Some of the questions were, HEXO's Quebec sales are dropping each month. Is Zenabis the solution? Are the discussions with QC Gov going back to 18 years of age minimum versus 21 and intro of vapes and increasing bevs to 10 milligram? What is the bio clause if Molson decides to pull out and go solo? Royalties, one-time payment, is this agreement public? Does HEXO see the US using similar legal framework to the alcohol industry? And do you see the Canadian flower crossing US borders? What is HEXO's marketing advertising strategy moving forward? Seems like you spend very little. Trent answered with, HEXO believes their products are the solution, and they are working on a product refresh in Quebec, and Zenabis sales in Quebec are gaining traction, which is good to see. Quebec's regulation is a bit different than other provinces, as the SQDC reports to the health minister of Quebec. Quebec government goal is to provide safe consumption but compete directly with the black market. As for the age and beverage limits, it's an ongoing discussion that they hope will change in the future. Reason you can't find JV info for Molson Coors and Truss is because it's not public. These deals are highly confidential. Trent believes that the MJ structure will be similar to the alcohol in some slight differences for producers and distributors. Looks like New York will go with a 3-tiered system similar to alcohol, which shouldn't bode well for vertically integrated MSOs. In terms of flower crossing the border, if we get an alcohol type system, then it's a possibility under federal trade agreements. And marketing is looking at several options to up their game and supplement their efforts, as they believe marketing is a key to their growth strategies and expect more developments on that soon. So to summarize the last few questions, a question regarding how they plan to go from number 3 to number 1. And they basically said that we're number 4 right now, but with Zenabis we'll be number 3. We're only about 3 million behind number 2. And we have plans to overtake that organically. With that said, it's going to be hard to take number 1 because of Freya and Tilray, to their credit, have quite a large lead. We'll see how that works out, but they are active in M&A, and they think that may be a strategy as well to take number 1. On the medical production, will there be a drinkable product for the medical side, such as supplement that could be regulated and sold to produce more review through your Trust brand? So some of our products are available today through the medical channel, specifically Verivel Drops. Will Trust be ready to drink beverages are not only available through the medical channel today, we are always evaluating the opportunity. Concerning the new Zenabis purchase, can you shed any light on the condition of the business as far as sales, marketing, growth, etc.? We can't really comment because it's not at the point where they can. They're very happy with the traction they had growing their brands, specifically some of the success in Quebec. They're doing very well. Elaborate on a question from earlier, Zenfarm and the future potential in Europe. I understand the interest of your company. Can you provide any color around initial shipments? And HEXO pursue expansion in European markets by seeking additional distribution. Hi, Molly. Unfortunately, we can't comment. So basically just the same thing. I have to shut it down. And our plans for EU without the transaction are increased distribution across all markets. With Zenabis, it certainly makes it easier. You mentioned the answer to another set of questions with Molson Coors has taken the lead, almost a mentor. How beneficial do you see this partnership for HEXO? Other negotiations with Fortune 100s in candy and cosmetics? And how likely would a 42.5% type of deal be struck, or would be closer to 50-50? He responded with, Molson Coors is a great partner leaning on the beverage formulations. They are tied to the consumers and the occasions for consumption. Together, we've stooped up a huge cannabis-infused beverage bottling and canning plant capable of virtually any type of beverage, and they require a large capital infusion and lots of industry expertise to construct, commission, and operationalize. Hence, the need of a standalone company to oversee it, so trust, and allow the organization to continue with its day-to-day responsibilities. Think light JV or royalty deals in the future that have our partners lend in key know-how expertise while we oversee the cannabis infusion delivery technology. I'm not sure I've heard of an LP doing a royalty deal. What would a royalty deal look like? So this was a great question. Really depends on the market, Canada versus US and international. We are looking at structured deals in Canada where HEXO would take the lead because of regulations and use manufacturing, distribution, etc. We would look to the CPG partner to expertise, brands, and formulations / recipes, and in turn pay a royalty. HEXO would be responsible for the manufacturing, distribution, and sales under the license. In the US, we would look to leverage our partners' manufacturing, distribution, sales, and brand. So bringing it home, I'll go through these a little quicker. So there's a question about trusts and what happens when they get their own license. Molson Coors owns majority of that joint venture, so it'll be reported under their financials, and HEXO will report on an equity basis. Question about a shareholder on Zenabis and where they're at in the merger. He said everything's going smoothly. The shareholder vote is on May 13th, and they feel good about it. Go out and vote. He encourages them to do so. Trent, what kind of strategies are you guys using to combat CPG concerns and reputation and negotiating in the sector? He basically said that a lot of companies are starting to warm up to the idea. There was a lot of stigma and regulatory uncertainty, but now with the prospects of the United States specifically looking up, it's looking more promising than ever. How does HEXO plan to be a top player in the United States, specifically with there's so many players out there? And they reiterate they're not trying to be an MSO, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel or be a beverage company or a food company, an MJ company first, and they're going to leverage powered by HEXO and JVs with other Fortune 500 companies. So there's a question here about revenues from beverages being lower than expectations and what are the sales trend going forward. He wasn't sure what the expectation was, reiterated that they were up 94% year over year compared to their peers. Just to name a few, CGC plus 23%, OGI negative 23%. We had a great quarter, just in my perspective. We don't give guidance though. And then the last few questions here. My question is, out of the next 3 years, can you provide direction and key outcomes required for you to consider the next 3 years a success? If you had a crystal ball, you'd let us know. Lots of innovation, consolidation in the sector still to be had, in his opinion. What the industry will look like 3 years from now is anyone's guess. For success for us is eventually being a top 2 company in Canada by Canada recreational sales and perhaps a top 5 in the world by market cap. We'll try our best. Last question, what are your thoughts on the water-soluble THC enhancer announced by major MSO yesterday? What is the strategy for HEXO to accommodate and incorporate this type of product into their CPG strategy? Trent responded with, we welcome MSO to the game. We actually have a number of these products already in the market under the Veryvel brand, Exhale, Yawn, and Tingle. In fact, they were the first products we launched under a JV with Molson Coors. They are water-soluble and can be added to any beverage. So that's going to conclude today's video. Make sure to smash the like and subscribe to the channel. Again, I tried to review this as quickly as possible in 20 minutes for you folks, just to save you guys some time and make it as easy as I can to understand. So thanks again for joining us on the Pursuit of the Wealth. Hope you found this information valuable, and we'll see you on the next one.